Part 79. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 785. Diddy Diddy. Suddenly, a notification sound came from the watch terminal. Garen raised his hand and looked at it. It turned out to be a call from Nono's father, Rondo, for this month's living expenses, which was exactly 1,000 points. He frowned. Nanosawa's family was not in a good condition. After paying one semester's tuition, he still had to bear his monthly living expenses and expenses. The family was even more stretched. His younger siblings even gave up their studies to reduce expenses in order to fully provide for Nonosawa. Nyo finished studying at Black Disc Academy. It can be said that all the hopes of the whole family are pinned on Nono. They usually live frugally and are reluctant to eat even a little bit of natural meat. They mostly eat artificial foods. After thinking about it, Garen walked towards the agreed location and dialed the number of Nono's father, Rondo. The call was connected immediately. "I can only squeeze out these, Nono, please save a little." "There is really no other way." Rondo's tired and old face appeared on the terminal. His eyes were bloodshot, and he had worked overtime for 2 consecutive days without a wink, in order to collect his son's living expenses as soon as possible. This was his entire salary. The company was also in a recession recently, and he had no choice. "My wife can also bear all the household expenses, and my grandma also needs to buy medicine every month for her illness. The 5 people in the family have to eat, drink, and pay for food, clothing, housing, and transportation. The heavy pressure of life makes him breathless." Garen didn't expect that when he called him, the other party thought he was asking for money. It seemed that Nonosawa in the past probably didn't know how to make phone calls. If he called, he would definitely ask for a lot of money. This made his father Rondo so helpless. Looking at the old and tired Rondo on the screen, even though he was not his real father, Garen was still touched. Just think of it as some reward for taking over their son's body. He opened his mouth, but in the end he couldn't say the word dad. After all, his real age may be much older than the other person. "I'm not asking for money. I have enough money here. You don't need to give me general points in the future. Just keep it for yourself." He took a breath and explained. "No money? Your college's expenses are so high, how can you live without money?" Rondo opened his mouth slightly and looked extremely surprised. "Don't worry, your brother has also found a job recently and will only have income this month. His share of the money was originally planned to be paid to you tomorrow. I will ask him to pay you now." He quickly called other people, and soon Galleon's terminal beeped again, and another 300 points were credited. The person who made the payment was Burin, Nono's younger brother Alan. Garen sighed in his heart, thinking of his younger brother Alan's timid appearance. He actually took the initiative to go out to work to support his brother's expenses at the academy. To be honest, it really touched his heart. Nanosawa's life in the college was not to say that he was a wealthy and upper-class person, but at least he had no worries about food and clothing. He enjoyed the admiration and respect of his classmates. Being able to save 8 or 9,000 in general was obviously no joke. However, the family is reluctant to buy natural food every day and only eats the cheapest synthetic food. Now even the younger brother who is not in school has to go out to work to support him. He could feel Nono's attitude towards his family from his previous memories. Shameful, disgusted and not wanting to go home at all. He was ashamed that he had such a poor family, so much so that he also felt disgusted with his family. Compared to other classmates, he didn't even dare to attend many gatherings because the expenses were high, and he didn't dare to attend many outings. Because of the high cost, even the exercise methods he uses are free of charge at the academy, while most students buy the most suitable exercise methods from outside. Under various comparisons, he finally developed a hatred for his family. Except for asking for money, he basically had no contact with his family. Family was one of the main reasons why he was taciturn in the college, so only two classmates, Elle and Mia, who were close to him, but they didn't know what was going on at Nono's home before he was hospitalized. "Don't worry," Galen explained, "I found a way to train myself and make some money in the academy. I don't have to worry about my living expenses at home." "It's true." Rondo still doesn't seem to believe it. Galen simply used the terminal to quickly send him 2,000 universal points. "The extra 1,000 points from this money will be used as a subsidy for my family. Don't let Alan go out to work, let him go to school." In the terminal, Rondo seemed completely stunned. He didn't react for a moment. Nono, who had been asking for money from home, actually sent money home for the first time. "Nono. You won't do anything bad, right?" "Of course not," Garen replied affirmatively. "Don't worry, I really found a part-time job in the college. I can make some money and practice my studies." He quickly called his brother Alan again. 1,000 points passed. Now he has earned tens of thousands of general points on the battle network. This amount of money only covers a few games. Now he only enters lottery games with thousands of points. If it weren't for the extra money to buy the white malachite, he would have planned to give more money to his family. "Don't worry, I really don't need any more money from you," Garen answered affirmatively again. At the terminal, Rondo seemed to believe it. "Don't let your part-time job affect your studies." Seeing that his eldest son didn't want the support of his family, he was worried. At the same time, he felt a lot less pressure. In order to afford the high tuition fees of Hippan Academy, in order to afford Nono with huge monthly expenses, the family has become extremely frugal. If you can really save a piece of money on this, it will greatly improve the family's income and expenditure. "Okay, I'll hang up first and call Alan." "Well, pay attention to your health and study hard in the academy," Rondo quickly warned. "No." Garen pressed the hang-up button and arrived at the agreed waiting place. He stood on the street and waited while dialing his brother Alan's personal terminal. It just rang once and the call was immediately answered. "It's Alan's brother, from Black Pen Academy." Let me see. His brother is actually from Black Pen Academy. How amazing. My cousin is only from Swordfish Academy, and it looks like it's the same thing all day long. Alan, your brother is actually from Black Pen Academy. When will you introduce him to me?" There was a little girl's voice. Alan's face appeared on the terminal screen, looking at the terminal here with restraint and a hint of pride. There seemed to be a lot of people around him, including the voices of young peers and adults, which was a bit noisy. "Brother, why did you call me?" His voice was very small, and he still felt a little timid. "Also, and I thought I saw you sending me money just now." Garen frowned slightly. "Who asked you to go out to work? Come back right away. I don't need your money at home." His tone was very serious, which immediately startled Alan, and his face suddenly turned pale. "That's the money I gave you just now. I earned it from my part-time job. You go back to me to prepare and go back to school right away. Remember to bring the suspension procedures you applied for before. Now that he has taken over Nono's body, he has taken the place of him. The disappeared Nono should repay his family." But. Burin cringed, and before he could say anything, he was immediately interrupted by Garen. "It's nothing, just go back and go through the formalities to resume school right away. Your family won't have to ask you to go out to work to earn money," Galen said with a serious face. "Bulan is only 13 years old and is still in high school. If he doesn't go back to school now, there will really be no way to recover it when he gets older." On the screen, Burin looked like he was about to cry, but Garen still scolded him severely and told him to go back to class immediately. Unexpectedly, Burin actually mustered up the courage to retort a little. Although it was just a short sentence, Garen also saw from this that Burin seemed to get along well with the place and people around him. He really didn't want to leave. If you really don't want to leave, then work part-time. Like me, work part-time after class, Garen gave advice. Seeing Bolen's tears streaming down his face, he still didn't insist on giving up his job. If you need money in the future, just tell me. I'm much better off now, don't worry. Oh. Okay, hang up. He disconnected the terminal and looked up to see the uncle who owned the car from last time walking towards the side, looking left and right. The location of Garon's station was at the corner of a street with relatively few people. He didn't seem to notice him. Just as Garen was about to walk over to say hello, suddenly there was a slight sound from behind, and a gust of wind rushed over and hit the back of his head. Without any hesitation, Garen instantly turned around and raised his elbow, and the tip of his elbow was slammed back with the huge turning force. Bang! A student was hit on the head. He was also wearing the uniform of the Black Pen Academy, but he was holding a piece of black cloth in his hand, which was probably the same cloth that he tried to cover Garen's head just now. The man was hit hard on the head, staggered a few steps away in a daze, and did not recover at all. When the other two boys saw this, they didn't expect such a turn of events. They immediately roared and rushed forward, wanting to fight head-on. The two of them punched Garen hard on the head, one on the left and the other on the right. Garen turned slightly to let go of the two fists, and slammed his right knee forward. There was a muffled bang and one person fell down. The other person's fist was empty, and when he saw someone falling on the ground, he suddenly started to sweat on his forehead. "This guy has practiced," he shouted at the man who had just recovered. "What?" Before he could finish his words, he suddenly felt a pain in his stomach, and he took 5 or 6 steps back lightly, unable to stand up at all. The last person was staring at Garen with cold sweat all over his body. He didn't know whether to move forward or retreat for a moment. "Who asked you to sneak attack me?" Garen asked calmly. Although his physical qualities are still very weak, he can easily defeat these little guys with just his fighting skills and experience. When fighting, you use too much force and leave no room for strength. You are driven by the huge inertia and cannot change your moves. Although such moves are powerful enough, they are full of flaws as long as they are dodged. With a single key strike, your opponent can be easily dispatched. "Ah!" the man finally yelled, turned around and ran, but before he could run very far, Garen caught up with him and stuck his foot in the crook of his hind leg. He couldn't stand firmly and fell down. Garen grabbed the opponent's wrist terminal and checked it, then gave each of the three a kick, and then left directly. While many people were already standing watching the fun, the uncle who owned the car also looked at him in astonishment, swallowed his saliva, and then looked at the 3 students on the ground. "Ignore them, let's change places." Garen waved his hand. Okay. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 786. On the endless dark green grassland, black metal fragments and small white stones are scattered everywhere. Some of the fragments and stones are stuck upside down on the ground, and some are lying flat on the edge of the hills. The dim reddish sunlight in the afternoon shone down from the west, casting a black shadow on a 3-meter-high black metal fragment. The shadow fell obliquely to the ground, hitting the green grass as thin as cashmere. The sky is light red, and the white clouds are in the shape of steps, one level at a time, one in the east and one in the west, dyed light red. Between the clouds, a black-painted shuttle-shaped battleship slowly swooped down, and its huge 1,000-meter-long hull cast large shadows on the ground. The entire battleship is like a torpedo boat, completely dark, with small openings on the surface that are densely packed like honeycombs. At the tail, there are 2 tail fins that are slowly opening, spraying light green flames downwards. Whoosh! A humanoid mecha flew out from the honeycomb opening below the battleship. The mecha was completely black. It carried a heavy pulse gun in both arms, and carried a smooth and shiny disc black shield on its back. There was a red line on each shoulder. It looks more like a firefighter's outfit. After the 4-meter-high humanoid mecha flew out of the battleship, another similar mecha flew out of the battleship, buzzing downwards like bees leaving the nest. One of the slightly taller mechas landed lightly on the edge of the largest piece of debris below, and the red electronic eye on the mask scanned it. The battle will end in less than half an hour, please search the surrounding area, a young man's voice came from inside the mecha. Clear. Mechas carrying black discs spread out, with more than 20 of them densely packed, and began to conduct a carpet-like search around them. Light blue flames erupted from the back of the mecha's legs, pushing it to search all sides of the grassland. After a while, a mecha sent a signal. We found it. There is a cave here, and there is a person hiding in it. He was seriously injured. Is it him? How could this happen? Send him back for rescue immediately. A few minutes later, a mecha carried a dirty boy and flew towards the battleship. A large number of mechas behind them quickly retreated to the battleship and returned along the original hive entrance. In a dark little room, Garen gently opened a large bag in front of him, which was filled with irregular white malachits. He took out one and patted it before putting it in another pocket on his right-hand side. The car owner sat opposite him and watched him inspect the goods quietly. Neither of them spoke, only the dim lights in the rental house shone down. Garen took out the stones one by one, putting weight on them one by one, and then put them into the bag on the right side. His movements were neither fast nor slow, and his expression was calm. Suddenly, Garen pinched a stone and frowned. This isn't the stone I want. The car owner laughed dryly and quickly took the stone from Garen's hand. I took it by mistake, I took it by mistake. Garen snorted and continued to examine other stones. Soon several more were found. The car owner's face became more and more ugly, and there was a slight trace of sweat on his forehead. Did you get it wrong again this time? Did you get so many wrong items again? Garen glanced at him. It seems you don't want to trade. How could it be? With so many stones, it is inevitable that there will be mistakes. After all, there are more than 200 stones. The car owner wiped his sweat and said with a smile. There are 215 stones in total. I'll pay you 1015 for them all, Garen said calmly as he put away the last stone. What? 1050, the car owner was stunned. We didn't agree. I didn't agree with you to deal with fakes, Garen interrupted him. But it's just $1005. This is at least 4,000 points worth of goods. The car owner was sweating more and more. 4,000, Garen smiled. You can sell it as long as you find someone to pay this price. He leaned back on the sofa behind and looked at the car owner leisurely. Aren't you dishonest? The car owner became anxious and stood up. Credibility? If you don't mix fakes, I will still be honest with you. But if you mix fakes, you can't blame me for lowering the price. Galen looked calm. Besides, the purchase price of this batch of goods of yours is at most 5 points apiece. The price I gave you is already very good. Forget it. If you don't want to sell it, I'll find someone else who sells this thing. The car owner did the math and realized that $1,500 was equivalent to 7 points a dollar. His purchase price was only 4 points, so he still made some money, but it was just a little less. And as the other party said, if this batch of goods is in his hands, there will never be so many people willing to buy such a large amount. It is really not easy to find a buyer besides the student in front of him. He gritted his teeth. He originally thought that the student in front of him was a prodigal. He was either rich or noble and had too much money. He didn't expect that he would be so miserable in a blink of an eye. He didn't get a big advantage at all from the price. Amazing. He raised his eyes and glanced at the right Garen. The opponent was sitting firmly on the Diaotai. He was calm and confident. He wanted to use violence. He thought of the strength of this guy just now and his status as a student of Black Pen Academy. This student is very shrewd, but he kept the price down so as not to push me into a hurry and give him some leeway. It seems reasonable and not arrogant to lower the price only by finding fake products. He seems to be very short of money, and with his status as a black plate student, maybe I can give you 1,000 points for this batch of goods. The car owner suddenly made a decision in his heart. Oh, Garin was slightly startled, but he didn't expect that the other party would say that after suffering a loss. What are your conditions? I want to cooperate with you. The car owner took a deep breath and whispered. You are a student of Black Pen Academy. With this status, we can cooperate. If you can help me get some special information in the school, we can achieve a win-win situation. Information? What information? Garin was really surprised this time. He didn't expect that the guy in front of him still had such thoughts. Information about the star students of Blackboard Academy. The car owner became serious. To be honest, there are basically no people in your academy who are short of money. I have been looking for a long time but haven't found a suitable partner. Let's try this time and see if it works. You know, the outside world is also very curious about the internal situation of your college, and exposing the information of those star students in advance can also increase their popularity, and they can get more powerful bids before graduation, which is also good for them themselves. Benefit. It's a good idea. Garin nodded, but if you can think of it, then naturally others can also think of it. Why hasn't this kind of information been leaked for so long? Have you ever thought about this? He smiled. Stood up and picked up the selected bag, a heavy bag. Use the watch terminal to quickly mark 1,000 points for the other party. You said 1,000 points, I have to leave beforehand. Thank you very much this time. The uncle of the car owner was stunned by what Garin said, and he woke up when he heard the prompt tone on his terminal. Garin was about to go out at this time, and he stood up in a hurry. Hey! Can you tell me your name? No, Siwa. I'll come back to you next time if I need anything. My name is Kent. What's your phone number? The uncle quickly asked. Garin glanced at him and read out a series of numbers. Although this guy is a bit stupid, his decision-making is still good. After returning to the dormitory, Garin directly hung up the Do Not Disturb sign, closed the curtains, and began to truly practice meditation. Turning on the white light, he poured all the stones onto a large piece of paper. Garin carefully took off his clothes and sat cross-legged in front of the stones. With so many impurities in white malachite this time, it should be able to successfully break through to the second level, right? He felt a little hopeful. In fact, he has never really practiced a pure secret martial art of life. In the totem world, he was interrupted midway, went astray, and practiced evil skills. In the world of vampires, his secret martial arts only had one entry level from beginning to end. Unexpectedly, in this world, the rare materials needed to create secret martial arts are sold as trash, completely worthless. This is the difference between the worlds, Garin sighed in his heart. My mind quickly sank into the record of Cold Prison Peacock Kung Fu. The first 5 levels of Cold Hell Peacock Kung Fu are the foundation for building a foundation, used to improve one's physical condition. Only the last 3 levels are the real breakthrough and advancement. Only after the seeds of the secret martial arts of life have completely taken root and sprouted, the latter 3 levels are based on the body constitution of the practitioner and combined with the special techniques produced. It can be said that it should be a truly powerful secret martial arts that is completely suitable for Nanosawa's body. That's why it's called the derivative layer. Only after the foundation is completed can you be qualified to derive the next 3 layers. I don't know what will happen after entering the second level. Garin slowly closed his eyes and gently pressed his hands on the pile of white stones in front of him. In the room, his body sitting cross-legged gradually emitted a faint chill, and the skin all over his body turned faintly light blue. On the pile of stones in front of him, several white stones that his hands touched slowly began to melt and shatter. Silently, the stones quickly turned into piles of white powder. As the amount of powder increased, Garen's hands and arms became increasingly blue. The air temperature in the room was getting colder and colder, with gusts of cold wind blowing around Garen, and a thin layer of ice slowly formed on the pot of green cactus on the window sill. Time passed by minute by minute. Garen's entire mind was focused on the changes in his body. The moment the impurity malachite was absorbed, all the cold current threads in his body rushed out from the palms of his hands like crazy, and densely penetrated into the small pile of white stones. A large amount of viscous liquid was madly sucked into the body, and was quickly divided and swallowed by countless blue cold lines inside the body. And as the cold threads continued to swallow up the liquid material, they themselves became thicker and thicker, starting from the size of a hair, gradually becoming the thickness of chopsticks, and then actually becoming the thickness of a finger. These cold threads circulate crazily in the body, and wherever they pass, any part of the body will naturally condense into thin layers of frost. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 787. Garen sat cross-legged on the ground, feeling like he was almost frozen into an ice sculpture, and every part of his body was surrounded by extreme cold from the inside out. Snapped. Finally, the last piece of white malachite with impurities was completely reduced to powder. In the palms of Garen's hands, countless cold blue lines invisible to the naked eye quickly shrank back into his palms. And the attribute skill bar that he had been staring at from beginning to end finally began to change. Hanjing Peacock Kung Fu, Secret Martial Arts of Life, Source Unknown, First Level Entry Level, Second Level Completion Rate 12%. Percent 12 finally started to move. Slowly, from slow to fast, the completion progress increased from 12% to 15%. The speed is getting faster and faster. 16/U00180EI/U00100%. At the moment when it reached 100%, Garen could clearly see that the cold prison peacock skill on the skill bar was finally slightly blurred. When it became clear again, it had completely changed. Cold Prison Peacock Kung Fu, the secret martial arts of life, whose origin is unknown. The second level of heart transformation uses the Cold Prison Peacock bloodline as the standard to transform the heart to achieve the purpose of gradually strengthening the whole body's physique. Transformation time, 2 months and 15 days. The third floor is 24% complete. Garen looked at the changes in the icon with satisfaction and recalled the reason why he was unable to advance to the Cold Hell Peacock technique. There are 2 conditions required to enter the second level. One is an extremely cold environment. There is no way around this. General ice houses are far from meeting this condition. The second one is white malachite. Although there is no way to achieve the first condition, you can use a large amount of white malachite to melt and absorb and then forcibly evaporate and disperse to simulate the special required environment. This is also the reason why he has absorbed so much impurity white malachite, but only made such a small progress. According to the proportion, the more than 200 impurity malachites here are at least equivalent to the weight of more than 20 pure white malachites, and only one is enough for the second level of Galleon advancement, and the rest are used by him to simulate the extremely cold environment. Successful. Garen clenched his fists and felt a chill all over his body. The secret martial arts seeds naturally absorbed the components of white malachite and began to gradually grow and sprout in his body. 2 months and 15 days should be the time it takes for the Cold Prison Peacock Kung Fu to completely transform the heart. I wonder what kind of changes will happen after the complete transformation is completed. Garen was getting more and more excited. This is the path that the real ancient warlocks took, and it is the most orthodox path. I got up and went to the bathroom and took a shower again. My body was all sticky with a layer of light blue mucus, which kept giving off a faint stench. This is the body impurity that has been initially transformed. After rinsing his whole body and putting on a clean school uniform, Garin poured all the powdered white malachite with impurities into the prepared bottle. A large amount of powder filled a large bottle, which was about the same height as an ordinary mineral water bottle. The remaining fuel is high-energy fuel and can be sold for money. After cleaning up everything, Garin lay on the bed and rested for a while, and fell asleep unconsciously. Toot. Toot. Suddenly the watch terminal rang, waking him up from his sleep. He raised his hand and looked at the watch terminal. It was Air's phone number. Garin pressed the connect button. Al's face appeared on the screen. No, what are you doing? It took you so long to answer the phone. You're sleeping, what's wrong? Garin yawned. This body is just an ordinary person's body. The transformation of the cold prison peacock skill will take time and cannot be accomplished overnight. Just enduring the cold and absorbing the malachite was already a bit overdrawn. Would you like to go see Mia? Air lowered his voice. I met her cousin today, and only after listening to what she said did I know that Mia seems to be having problems at home recently, and I haven't seen her come to play Battle.net with us. Garin recalled the girl at the same table who had been visiting him during his surgery. She was one of Nanosawa's only two friends. When to go? Tomorrow. Qualifying will officially start the day after tomorrow, and you will definitely be dragged into pre-race preparations. That's okay. Make an appointment with Air, and Garin disconnects the terminal. I couldn't get through my call to Mia, so I called Coach Ham to ask about the time and place of the qualifying match, as well as the time and place of pre-race preparations. Make everything clear before readjusting. You can try it first to see if there are any changes in the exercise method. Breaking through the second level of the Cold Hell Peacock Kung Fu and improving one's physical condition, Galen speculated that it might have a positive impact on exercising one's consciousness. While sitting cross-legged on the bed again, he tried the exercise method again. Unfortunately, nothing has changed and progress is still slower than a snail's pace. After spending more than half an hour, Galen exited the exercise state. He simply clicked on the tablet and tuned it to the news autoplay channel. Regarding the recent visiting team from Luoyang Academy, Maria Academy sent the first Chief Suana, known as Zero Gun, to greet them. The two colleges have reached a number of consensuses on friendly exchanges and cooperation between the two domains, and have actually signed technology exchange transaction documents across multiple fields. Is the cooperative attitude of Luoyang domain and Maria domain beneficial to Black Disk Aurora? The extent of the pressure caused by the alliance between the two domains is yet to be determined. Galen watched the news pictures flashing on the screen. In the gorgeous golden spaceship hall, several men in tight black skirts and a group of blonde women were interacting with each other. Both parties turned sideways and posed with smiles for reporters to take pictures. Maria College and Luoyang College are both powerful domain controllers adjacent to Black Pan College. There are three large domains near the Black Disk. The largest ones are the Luoyang domain and the Maria domain. The smallest ones are the Aurora domain. There are 7 or 8 other small domains here and there. Adopting the strategy of distant friendship and close attack, Black Pan Academy and Aurora Domain Alliance obviously put great pressure on Maria Domain and Luoyang Domain. I heard that Maria Domain and Luoyang Academy are different from Black Disk. They adopt a normal academy training system, which is different from the survival of the fittest and survival of the strong system here. Related information flashed in Garen's mind. It is recorded in the data that Black Pan Academy is an outlier among these colleges. The average students are fine, but the elite students of Black Pan adhere to the elimination tactics that focus on actual combat and put the elite students into dangerous mission environments to hone their skills. Practice, and those who survive safely in the end are the truly powerful elites. In other academies, most of them use peaceful methods. Most of the students in the academies play the role of defenders and protectors, and the competition among students is not so fierce. But in comparison, the selection process when entering the school is much stricter than the blackboard. Garen changed the channel. What was displayed on the screen was local radio 2 with a black plate. The black disk domain is very large as several provinces on Earth where Garen once lived, and naturally has multiple local stations. Channel 2 is playing a recruitment advertisement. Another channel, the entertainment channel, sells home robots, intelligent flying cars, automatic full-body massagers, and even artificial dolls imported from other regions, which look no different from real people. Garen pressed the news button again. Following the local news, live coverage of the city's riots was being broadcast. A female reporter and a photographer squeezed through the surging crowd. It is rumored that Master Black Star Diofi will officially participate in the investigation of this riot. Black Star Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Chris officially announced that the most severe and ruthless blow will be given to this riot, and those who deliberately disrupt social order will be punished. Terrorists who endanger people's personal safety will be dealt with mercilessly. The reporters pushed forward while reporting with difficulty. Galen noticed a name mentioned by the reporter. Black Star Diofi. He knew that this person was the strongest chief of the Black Pen Academy. He owned a powerful mecha named Black Star. His most famous record was that he single-handedly destroyed the Black Star in an external battlefield. 35 special mechas and 6 destroyers were killed, almost single-handedly changing the outcome of the battle in the Black Pan territory. You must know that the characters he killed were not ordinary mecha characters. The opponents were also selected elite mecha masters. Killing 30 or so ordinary mechas was nothing, but killing an elite mecha master it has a completely different meaning. Whenever a mecha master is an elite, the lowest overall level is level 2, and the slightly stronger ones are level 3, or even level 4. This is a terrifying span. While listening to the news, Garen gradually gained a clearer understanding of his environment. Within the Home Star Federation, conflicts between domains are increasingly intensifying. The battle for reunification is only a matter of time. Each college is stepping up its efforts to cultivate its own powerful talent elites. The situation of separatism in various places has been completely finalized, and the civil war is endless throughout the entire Home Star Federation. Today there is a truce here, and there may be a direct war there. Although strategic weapons such as nuclear weapons of mass destruction and radiation cannons cannot be used due to the blockade of the Skylight system floating in space, the intensification of conventional conflicts in various places is still inevitable. Gently tapping the touch screen of the computer, Garen watched the news broadcast with an expressionless face. War broke out again in a certain domain. The war between certain domains restarted, with heavy casualties. What kind of construction of people's livelihood has been increased in the Black Disk domain? Invest. The news is like this. There is war raging outside and the people are so miserable that they can hardly afford to eat, but at home there is all kinds of peace and beauty, with great welfare. Then there's the extraterrestrial reporting, and the platitudes of still trying to make contact. Since the parent star federation fell into disintegration, the federal countries have fallen back into a state of separatism and independence, and communication between planets has almost been cut off. Dozens of planets have almost become independent kingdoms. Fortunately, once external forces infiltrate, the original forces of these federations will unite together in an instant to defeat the foreign enemies. After several attempts by other countries, large and small, around the federation, they were all beaten badly. Instead, several small country planets were directly annexed by the Federation forces. I don't know what emergency standards are used between the planets. It seems that at a critical moment, they can open up the connection between the planets and fight against the enemy together without avoiding past grudges. On the other hand, the Galactic Alliance was at war with the Fenites again, and the fight was in full swing. They had no time or energy to pay attention to the turmoil here. In such a situation, the first thing Garen thought of was the state of the Three Kingdoms period. Similarly, the princes are divided and separatist. Some are aggressive, some are defending the city, and some are united vertically and horizontally. The large and small princes are densely packed. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 788. After watching the news in the dormitory for a while, there was a knock on the door of the room. Garen turned off the computer, stood up and opened the door. Ayer walked in, his face a little ugly. "What's wrong with you?" Garen was a little surprised. "It's okay, it's just that I asked carefully about the situation at Mia's home." Ayer closed the door and sat down to pour himself a glass of water. "What are you doing? There's a weird medicinal smell in the house." He frowned and looked at the messy dormitory room. The floor was covered with paper that had not yet been collected. It was used to place the white stones just now, and there was still some white goose powder left on it. "I'll clean it up." Garen rolled up the paper on the ground and threw it into the trash can. He then went to find a rag and wiped some areas with a lot of stone powder. Ayer watched Garen busy, put his hands on the sofa and continued talking. "Mia's family made a mistake in their business investment and lost a lot of money. Now they still owe a large amount of foreign debt." Garen thought of the girl who often visited him in the hospital. Although he did not completely get the memory of Nono Siwa, he would not forget who was really good to him. In his opinion, Mia was indeed sincere. There is nothing selfish about being nice to Nono Siwa, it is just a pure relationship between friends. What about the impact on her? He thought for a moment and asked. Elle breathed out, and there was no surprise in Garen's calm tone. Nono Siwa had always been like this, taciturn and introverted. Being able to ask this already shows that he is very concerned about this matter. It may affect her tuition next year. Tuition fee? Garen nodded. The tuition fee for Black Pen Academy is 70,000 yuan a year. For rich people, this amount of money is not much. For ordinary families, this amount of money is an astronomical figure. 70,000 yuan is a common point. Many ordinary families have their entire annual income, and many families even do not have that much. "I'll go back and think of a solution." Ayer was silent for a moment and then said. "What can you do? What about Mia herself?" "What did he say?" Garen also poured himself a glass of water, took a sip and sat down. "What else can I say? She plans to go out to work and start earning next year's tuition for herself now. With her is a former schoolgirl of hers. Her family is also very difficult. She goes out to work in order to study. Her schoolgirl is the one who works." Introduced to her, Ayer looked helpless. "Before I came to you, I just went to her place once. She had lost a lot of weight and was very haggard." Garen nodded. "Don't worry about Mia. I may be able to think of a solution here." "You? What can you think of?" Ayer couldn't help but raise his voice. "You yourself still owe the teacher more than 1 million. Seeing that Garen wasn't in a hurry at all, he felt a knot in his heart. "You're impatient." Garen shook his head. "Impatientness doesn't solve anything, it only makes it worse. It's me who is impatient." Ayer also knew that he had lost his composure, lowered his head and lowered his voice. "It's precisely because I owe more than 1 million that I want to find a way on my own." Galen was interrupted by Ayer before he could finish. Forget it, I'll talk to my father when I get back and see what he can do. You should rest first." Ayer lowered his head and didn't want to talk anymore, and stood up. "I'm leaving." Garen watched him get up and open the door, slamming the door hard as he left. He also stood up without saying a word, just sighed. The current social situation is turbulent, and the lifeblood of business depends largely on the government's policies. Policies change day by day, ebb and flow, and there will be ups and downs like this every once in a while. This is the sadness of troubled times. Without power, there will be no power. You can only let others slaughter you. The Black Disc qualifying match is held in the shadow under the huge battleship. This shadow is the safest place in the entire Black Disc Academy. A conical silver light curtain is projected from below the battleship in the sky. From a distance, it looks like a silver veil, looming. Inside the silver gauze is a huge cylindrical arena with a diameter of more than 1,000 meters. The white arena is divided into many competition areas, and each competition area is surrounded by specialized energy supply robots that constantly replenish protective barriers. Teams of people from various departments walked along the entrance of the arena and walked into each competition area. The teams at the entrance were one after another, surrounded by spectators and students who were watching and cheering, as well as some family members of the visiting students and other college students. The cheers came one after another, and there were even various fireworks and salutes simulated with light and shadow effects. The teams entering the competition now are the B2 grade teams. As the top 3 representatives, they are all girls. Compared with last year when only one boy was selected, this year is obviously more extreme. The radio voice was full of enthusiasm and introduced each participating team impassionedly. Garen stood in the team of Class C5, standing side by side with Faye Bailey and the second place Sarah. Slightly, Faye Bailey, as the first place, had to stand a little further forward. The 3 of them stood alone among a large number of participating students. Compared with the outstanding students from other classes around them, they suddenly looked inconspicuous. "Did you see the class in front of us on the right?" Faye Bailey suddenly spoke softly. Amidst the lively cheers, his voice was directly heard by Garen and Sarah through the pager. "Pay attention to the dark-haired girl in the middle." Garen and Sarah followed his gaze and saw that among the 3 people in that class, a girl with short black hair was talking with one hand on the shoulder of a weak girl with long pink hair. She looked carefree and her eyes revealed an incomparable aura. Confident, the sharp hair tips are like many fine spikes, combined with the girl's bold gestures, giving people a strong sense of confidence and courage. That person's name is Merseth, one of the 2 strongest people in our C grade. "I was defeated by her last year and didn't last a minute," Faye Bailey said calmly, but his pupils were deep. There is still a hint of unwillingness everywhere. However, he has always kept his emotions and anger hidden, and did not show it clearly. Merseth's melee control level has reached at least level 2. He is a very powerful opponent. You 2 are both long-range shooters. Be careful not to let her get close, Faye Bailey solemnly warned. Understood. Sarah and Garen both nodded. Garen knew that without Yuya, he had tested his own strength, and it was only less than level 1. If he used his true level, he could even run on a mecha, let alone dodge and fight. It is undoubtedly very fragile compared to these real elites. His strength is actual combat outside of mechas, but he is completely unfamiliar when used on mechas. Although he has the operating experience of Buddha Mother, this world is completely different, and the operation mode is also the pure mental control of Buddha Mother. Differently, consciousness looks more like the cellular consciousness of the whole body, the cellular biological force field, which is closely related to the development of the body. Garen thought about it, and estimated that if he had practiced the secret of life Wuhan prison peacock kung fu to a certain level, it should be able to play a certain role in improving his consciousness. But now he is still extremely fragile. Faced with such a state of his own, this opponent named Merseth is really a very tough guy. Besides this person, there is another person, who is considered the strongest person in our C grade. Faye Bailey introduced the situation of the competition to the 2 of them. His family is not an ordinary small force, and naturally he has already known this information. Collected, in order to increase the overall ranking of one's own class, at this time, the 2 teammates can actually increase their understanding of the opponent to slightly enhance their chances of winning. Barry Visalia, everyone calls him Barry. He hasn't come yet, and that man is also a very scary guy. Be careful, when mentioning that man, Faye Bailey also showed a rare look of fear. Scary, Sarah narrowed her eyes. Why do you say he is scary? Fabrier glanced at Sarah. Barry has a nickname, called Mecha Crusher. More than half of his opponents were destroyed by 80% of the mechas directly using the weapons on his hands. His two-handed weapons are a pair of high-speed cutting chainsaws. He once tore through more than a dozen mechas in the entrance test competition. Killed 3 people and seriously maimed 12 others. Sarah took a breath of air. The power of a weapon like a chainsaw is very huge, but the consumption of energy blocks is also very terrifying. For 2 chainsaws, this kind of consumption can only last for 1.5 minutes for a standard mecha. In other words, those who dare to use this kind of weapon are either crazy or have absolute confidence in themselves. Barry and Merseth Gallen knew in his heart that this time he came directly for the championship spot. As freshman, he received special treatment. The top 3 in the same department were not only qualified to be included in the Academy's elite team, but also received 100,000 UN point rewards. Even the top 10 will receive at least 10,000 points. It is said that the first place will also be rewarded with customizing a personal mecha in advance. Having your own mecha, especially a special mecha controlled by consciousness, is a very luxurious thing. All mechas in this world are actually based on the core technology of biological mechas and can be connected. Human consciousness is a very high-end technology. Therefore, a mecha is worth at least hundreds of thousands of universal points, which is still the lowest price for a popular model. The most important thing is that the first place will also receive a mecha control certificate issued randomly. This thing is like the gun license in other worlds. It is proof of legal ownership of your own mecha, equivalent to a mecha master's certificate. What worries Garen is that his consciousness is too weak now. Without Crescent Moon, it is difficult to even move, and Crescent Moon obviously cannot support a long-term battle. We can only decide quickly. He made a decision in his mind. Now is the time for the representatives of Class C5 to enter. Student Faye Bailey, one of the top 5 most favored students in Grade C, is the leader of this class. It was their class's turn to appear. Faye Bailey took the lead, followed by Garen and Sarah. Behind them, 3 people wearing special red slim-fitting competition uniforms walked onto the black carpet and walked towards the arched door of the arena. The students in the classes on both sides shouted loudly, and some kept whistling. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 789. At this time, everyone in the class regards themselves as a member of the class, as a whole, and sincerely cheers for the 3 of them. After all, as the class ranking increases, the average treatment for each student will be better. For example, every student ranked, if you move up 1 rank, the tuition will be reduced by 1%. The tuition fee will be reduced to a certain proportion according to the ranking. For example, if you can be ranked 3rd, then the tuition fee will be reduced to 30%. If you are ranked 1st, then you will only pay 10% of the tuition fee. You can also enjoy the opening of many special facilities of the college. The opening of these special facilities and venues can only be enjoyed by outstanding students. This is also one of the methods used by the college to stimulate students to compete for rankings. The strong get stronger, and the weak will only become mediocre if they don't work hard. Faye Bailey was walking in the aisle. His expression was indifferent and unusually calm, while Sarah was a little uncomfortable. After all, it was the first time she had seen this situation. As for Galen, he also pretended to be slightly unnatural. After all, this is in line with his current status and family background. Compared with the cheers of Merseth in front, the 3 of them were naturally inconspicuous. Only people in their own class were shouting. As soon as they walked over, the 3 of them heard a loud cheering sound from behind. The crowds in the aisles on both sides erupted like boiling water. Aralo! Alalo! Alalo! Barry! 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 Tear him apart! 2 tit-for-tat cheers sounded loudly. Less than 200 meters away, on both sides of the aisle, the empty black playground was filled with crowds of students roaring. Representatives from two teams of three walked on the black carpet one behind the other. The leader of the three people in front was a sturdy boy with yellow hair and a spiky head. There was a crack and scar extending out from the right side of his mouth. It seemed that someone had cut his mouth open to the right with a knife. He looked extremely ferocious. There was another group of three people walking behind. The leader in the middle was a blue-haired boy with silver earrings. The boy had a faint smile on his face. He was very charming and had a strong figure. He also had a faint scar on the side of his face. He adds a wild feel. Fay Bailey and the others looked back at the two groups behind them. Kaus Arilo, his grade level strength should be third. He is also ahead of me, and his strength is unknown. He is rumored to be Barry's strongest challenger. He is one of the chiefs who suddenly appeared recently. He has never been famous before. He glanced at the two people next to him. Sarah's eyes were filled with deep fear, while Garen's face was calm and his fists were clenched slightly. It was obvious that he was also disturbed by Type I thoughts. No, you have to be careful. Ariello is the younger brother of the test student you injured. He will probably target you in the competition. Garen nodded and said nothing. Groups of participating teams enter the competition area and each enter their own assigned grid. The entire arena was divided into grid areas by a large number of energy supply matches, and the schedule began to be arranged according to the original class rankings of the previous level. Class C5, the class of the three Grand Fabres, after the seniors from the previous level were promoted to Class B, the one who stayed was ranked 13th, which was neither high nor low. However, tuition exemptions and special facilities are not available. Only the top 10 students have the opportunity to enjoy these benefits. There are 56 classes in the whole grade. It is undoubtedly difficult to stand out from the elites of all these classes and compete for the top 10. The sweet female announcer began to arrange the schedule for the elites in each division. All classes will conduct preliminary rounds according to their previous rankings, and compete in pairs. The winner will advance to the next round of confrontation. In this way, they will be eliminated continuously and finally enter the final group. The loser does not completely lose the opportunity, but enters the loser group and survives the fittest again. The top 3 winners in the group can eventually challenge the final group. After winning, they can replace the challenged person and enter the final group. Finally, the final round will be held, and the one with the most wins will be ranked first. And so on. After the rules were played, the players in each class began to receive pre-match guidance under the comfort and arrangements of the instructor, while waiting for their opponents and competition areas. Teacher Ham and Wesson, the Mecha Combat teacher of Class C5, stood together and gave the final guidance to the 3 of Fay Bailey. Standing in a separate square grid next to the assigned wall of the arena, staff members were coming and going and making noise, but Teacher Ham seemed completely unaffected, and slapped Fay Bailey heavily on the shoulder with both hands. Fa Bailey, remember your key point. Your attacks are smooth enough, but as a melee mecha, closing the distance is the only thing you need to pay attention to. Because your marksmanship is also good, I suggest you choose a combination of long and close combat. Only in this way can you give full play to all your advantages, and when necessary, you can abandon your firearms and engage in close combat with all your strength. Fay Bailey nodded. I see. Ham let go of him and changed to Sarah. Your advantage is shooting, moving and shooting. You just need to do this well. I know you didn't show your full strength during the test, but now, I hope you will give your best. After all, this is not just for the class, but also for yourself. I know. Sarah nodded, trying to calm down. The last one, no, Teacher Ham came to Garen, your body has not fully recovered yet. You can perform normally without putting too much burden on you. You have great potential. You are not weaker than Sarah in shooting. You can choose how she fights. I understand. Teacher Garen also nodded, indicating that he was prepared. Come on, Have a drink of water first, Teacher Ham asked the nutritionist behind to come up and deliver the prepared nutrient solution. He took Fay Bailey, who was about to drink, to the side and taught him privately. Obviously, he put his best hope into it. It rests on Fay Bailey. Garen and Sarah sat quietly in their seats, waiting for the schedule to be announced. The schedule for each group will be released soon. Class C6 versus Class C5, opponents are assigned freely. Game start time. Soon it was their turn to schedule, and the game time was slightly later. After all, C5 was also a class ranked in the front part. The schedule is arranged and the first game officially begins. A huge light and shadow screen was displayed in front of everyone. There were many screens more than 10 meters high, erected in various directions of the competition area, so that outside viewers could understand the situation inside. What is displayed on the screen is the detailed situation, and the entire overlooking scene in the stadium can be seen freely, and the protective barriers are all transparent. The entire arena was surrounded by aristocratic spectators like those in an ancient gladiatorial arena. Not only the students, but also the teachers were also shouting, and the family members were even more excited. Just like a celebrity concert, some even customized huge cheering banners with someone's name written on them. Bang! The gunshot sounded at the beginning of the game. Suddenly, the entire arena was in a state of excitement. The light and shadow effect of a large number of pink petals slowly fell. A suspended metal platform below the battleship was the referee's seat. There were dozens of people sitting on the referee's seat, and they were referees for different grades. The first game of each grade officially begins. Garen quietly listened to the thunderous cheers all around, and various sounds came and went. He looked up at the two black and white mechas confronting each other on the big screen. The mechas are all the same, exactly the same, just different colors, Sarah whispered as she sat next to Garen. Our opponent is here, Class C6. Do you have any plans? She seemed a little nervous and seemed to have nothing to say. No, Garen shook his head, just perform normally. He was telling the truth. Although he was indeed much stronger in combat consciousness than the original Nono Siwa, Uiya's abilities were relatively weak. It has also been greatly weakened. For him, the most important thing about his ranking in the qualifying round is the valuable bonus and the qualification to join the elite students. This qualification should be the step to truly enter the core of the academy. Once you enter, you will be able to come into contact with the real high-level power of the college. After all, if you can't join the high level, you won't be able to get more advanced exercise methods. To prepare for a rainy day, the highest level of exercise methods that can be purchased with money on the market is only level 3. Level 4 requires verification of background and identity, and only military personnel are eligible to purchase. This represents the world's absolute monopoly on the secret methods of middle and high-level power. If I can get into the top 3 individually, then the tuition fee exemption will also be of great help to Mia, and I will also have the opportunity to repay the surgery fee advanced by Teacher Ham. Galen understood clearly. In addition, being in the top 3, being able to become an elite student, you can get support from the upper level in the college, and be accepted as a disciple by Professor May in the inner courtyard. Your status will immediately become different, and your family environment will also be greatly improved. Elite students are said to have their families properly arranged, and every year they will all enjoy great benefits. When I go out to join the army in the future, I will at least be a school-level officer. According to the arrangements of the Black Pen Academy, even if the elites die in battle in the future, their families and relatives will still receive good treatment. Such a quota is a rare resource that is absolutely desirable no matter who it is, as long as it is a person living in the black disk domain. However, the black market has a very strict control over the system, and the survival of the fittest is carried out. Even elite students have a battle fatality rate. At the same time, there is absolutely no loophole for favoritism and malpractice in this regard, and it can be said to be merciless. Galen also roughly found out the family background of the student he injured last time in the past few days. They bribed the dean of Department C and several teachers with money, and rejected the application for surgery fees at the regular meeting. As for the identity of an instructor, he is actually a former retired elite student. Coax. Suddenly, a violent shaking sound brought Garen back to his senses. The two mechas on the big screen had already decided the winner. The black mecha raised the long barrel in its hand and saluted in all directions. The white mecha on the other side was paralyzed on the ground, smoking all over. The driver was pulled out from inside and taken away by an ambulance. It looked like his injuries were unclear. A close-up shot clearly appeared on the big screen, magnifying the injury of the injured person. Both legs were broken, a hole was pierced in the lower abdomen, and a small section of intestines leaked out. The head was covered with blood, the person was in a coma, and he didn't know whether he was dead or alive. It was frightening to see. Maybe if you don't handle it well, your life will be in danger. Some foreign students who came to watch the battle slightly exclaimed, obviously having a new understanding of the cruelty of Black Pen Academy. Garen knew very well that in this competition held by Black Pen Academy, even the students from the outer academy would have casualties. After a game, it would not be surprising for hundreds of elites to die and severely injure dozens. The purpose of the college is that only life crises can force people to burst out their most powerful strength. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 790. One game after another gradually began. Highlights of each major competition area flashed across the big screen from time to time. In addition, an anti-gravity white battleship floated over the entire arena. The side of it displayed the dense victory and defeat data of each major competition area, the winning and losing status of each department and class, and the competition venue. Condition. Garen looked at the state of the field in front of him for a while. It was not interesting. They were all mediocre shooting or textbook standard battles. Although they looked smooth, their actual combat capabilities were not strong. He glanced at the data on the floating screen above. Barry, win 1. Merseth, win 1. This means that both of them have finished fighting. Finishing off their opponent in such a short time showed their strong combat capabilities. Time passed slowly, and finally the announcer's voice came their turn. C5 class Faye Bailey vs C6 class Carly. Faye Bailey stood up next to him, and with the encouragement of Teacher Ham, he went directly towards the entrance of the arena that opened automatically at the back. The classmates sitting in the auditorium not far away stood up and looked over. Mia and Elle were among them. They looked at Garen and saw that he was still sitting in his seat, calm and motionless, and sat down again. Around the noisy competition area, one could only vaguely hear the cheering sounds of classmates, and the cheering sounds of such a small number of people were directly drowned in other sounds. Garen sat quietly in his seat. One of his goals was to get into the top 3 in qualifying. Only by joining the Academy's elite team could he get real mid to high-end training methods for free. He already knew the world very well. The routes at the top are controlled by those in power. If you want to obtain information about the power system of this world and join the core of the inherent power, this is the best way. Listening to the shouts one after another all around, there were roars in the distance and screams nearby. Garen felt calm. According to Teacher Ham's information, as expected, the top 3 in this grade competition should be between Barry, Caius Alaro, and Merzes. In this competition, we, grade C, probably have no suspense. Barry, Caius, and Melseth should be the favorites to win the championship. The competition is actually a competition between them. Sitting on the referee seat, a young man in grade C said with a smile. To his right, a woman with red eyes and a ponytail was overlooking the arena below. The woman was wearing a single-chip computer glasses on her right eye, with a large number of data analysis models flashing and flowing on the lenses. When the woman heard this, she pressed her glasses and straightened up. The teacher asked us to come this time. The purpose is probably to examine which one of Mel's or K's is more suitable to join our section. Although the qualifications of the two are similar, their family background and personal personality also require a certain degree of observation. Actually, other candidates also have good qualifications, but these three are the only ones whose comprehensive strength can reach level 2. Even if the other outstanding students have level 2 strength, they only have one subject and two subjects, and their overall strength is not combined. Achieving a qualitative change, the man casually browsed other parts of the arena. But maybe, what if a dark horse comes out? Look, Werner and the others are also inspecting the students of this period. Their target should be that Barry. The woman looked to the other side. A man in white clothes with a beard over there was picking his teeth with a toothpick while casually watching the floating display board in front of him. The man looked over there and curled his lips. That guy is a beast. He was still unconvinced after being beaten by you last time. There was nothing but fighting all day long. How much money did the academy waste just on mecha maintenance? Yes, it would be great if everyone was like NG Sina. The red-eyed woman nodded slightly. Are you as mentally ill as him? The man glanced at the woman strangely. On the referee's bench not far away on the other side. Werner noticed the looks from the two people over there. It's that woman, he looked stern, that female pervert is here too. One of the three level 4 elites, red-eyed Metro. In internal battles, he beat his opponents to lifelong disabilities many times. During external missions, his hands were stained with the blood of tens of thousands of people. She looks like an inconspicuous and pretty female student. In fact, he is a terrifying executioner who is even more cruel and bloody than ours. A boy with glasses behind Werner whispered. That woman, even the Black Star Chief once said frankly that she is the elite most likely to inherit the title of the next generation of Black Star. Werner saw the woman's gaze moving over and felt a cold chill running down his spine, but for the man's dignity, he had to try hard to pretend that I was very brave and not afraid at all. By the way, he also took out a toothpick to pick his teeth. Be careful, Mediro is from the same lineage. Your mentor is Vice President Symes. It is one of the three most powerful departments in the college. The forces behind it are intertwined. Recently, the influence in the college is getting bigger and bigger. Vice President Symes, there are faint signs of vying for the position of Principal Zhang. The dean is already old, and their lineage is likely to reach the top, the boy with glasses reminded in a low voice. Werner accidentally dug a toothpick into his gums and broke into a cold sweat from the pain, but he still tried to maintain his image as a tough guy. Feeling the gaze of the red-eyed pervert over there, his heart was bleeding. These perverts come to the freshman class every year to rob people. It's just that you are unlucky and encounter someone with red eyes that you have offended. The boy with glasses also noticed that Werner was bleeding from his mouth, and he immediately showed sympathy. As expected of Werner, he is cruel to others, but he is even more cruel to himself. His toothpick bleeds but his expression remains unchanged. Mediro, a red-eyed man from a distance, admired. I let him go because I admired his tough guy style. What our college lacks is this kind of toughness that fights to the last moment. The man next to him suddenly looked strange. C5 Bano Siwa vs C6 Bangar. Before the game, Garin stood up and watched Faye Bailey walk down with a calm expression. The opponent in the previous game was the opponent's chief. Chief versus chief. This was the default rule of the academy. The opponent did not cause any trouble to him. Both sides were high-speed mobile opponents. After a quick movement, they quickly collided with each other. Faye Bailey did not waste much energy in the close combat. After using a round of basic sword skills, a white light suddenly flashed in the cold light. While fighting at high speed, he also secretly prepared a laser cannon and hit the opponent's cockpit with one shot. Class C6. The students at the previous level are very good and rank so high, but this year's freshmen are obviously not good enough. The opponent's chief can only be fluent in actual combat, but that's all. After walking down with an easy victory, Faye Bailey patted Galen on the shoulder. "Be careful and you will win." "I know." Garen nodded and walked towards the entrance of the passage behind him. Ham hugged him and whispered instructions according to the old rules. "Don't panic when encountering any situation." "What should be done?" No. "Come on," two voices suddenly rang out from the stands. They were inconspicuous among the many cheers, but Garen still recognized them as Al and Mia. He turned around and waved to the two of them. "Go ahead. Finish him." Teacher Ham smiled and pushed Garen on the back. Garen made an okay gesture back and quickly walked into the passage. Taking advantage of this qualifying match, he also wanted to test what level of strength his combat awareness would reach when combined with Yat. Entering the passage and walking into the mecha room, several white light beams shot from the left and right, hitting the surface of the mecha's body. This is a white humanoid mecha, with square shoulder pads on both shoulders, and two arm guards on the arms and forearms. A fang-like spike protrudes from the chin on the front of the chest, like a cicada, and the spike keeps bending. Extending down to the crotch, it seems to exist as a protective system for defense. This is one of the Academy's standard mechas. A standard first-level mecha. Garen looked at the 5-meter-high humanoid mecha with satisfaction. Toot, toot. When the short reminder sound sounded, he stopped delaying and stepped forward to stand on the elevator. Amidst the whining sound of the lift, he jumped into the open cockpit of the mecha's chest. Bang bang bang. There were several continuous beeps for the lighting console to be turned on. After putting on the helmet, under the circular field of vision in front of him, the circular console lit up with dense green electronic lights and a rotating model screen. Black Disk Type 1 Standard Mecha starts. A low electronic sound sounded. Data module expansion. Weapon system deployment. Energy system is warming up. Final inspection of the body. Garen put his hands on the console, placed the crescent moon on the edge of the table on the right, and took a deep breath. C534, no Shiva, dispatch. Whoosh. The huge mecha popped out with a bang, and a stream of blue flames rushed out from behind, rushing towards the outside world along the dark launch channel track, like a white bird flapping its wings. Gar gently slid out of the track channel and landed on the alloy floor of the arena to stand firm. The padded feet protected by the mecha made him light on the ground without making much sound. The jet-black humanoid mecha holds two jet-black daggers in both hands. As a unique dagger-style fighting skill of the family, Gal can stand out and stand here as the representative of the class to face other classes. It is a symbol of strength in itself, at least for him. It seems so to myself. Listening to the cheers and curses outside, Gal seemed to feel that this was the glory that was about to ring out for him. It's really exciting to stand on such a field. He had a feeling of narcissism, and felt that his whole body was slowly burning. His condition was unprecedentedly good. He was an extremely rare competitive player. The more pressure and the bigger the occasion, the better his condition. Soon, an automatic passage opened on the wall of the opposite arena, and the opponent's mecha slid out lightly and landed steadily. The opponent chose two laser cannons that came with the mecha. The muzzles of the cannons were thick and dark, and the slender white cannon barrels were one on each side. They also looked a bit ferocious. "The game begins," the mechanical voice sounded. Hey, Gar suddenly activated the mecha. With his combined strength in the middle of the first level, he rushed towards the opponent, and the machine made a difficult S-shaped trajectory. But just after rushing out less than 100 meters, the muzzle of the opposite mecha suddenly lit up with two white lights. Gar felt his scalp numb. The direction of the two white light muzzles turned out to be exactly the next landing point he was about to move to. How can it be? Woo! The two lasers hit the same point on the cockpit of the black mecha with a weird sound, and almost instantly broke through the mecha's defensive armor. Bang! The black mecha exploded, and the life-saving system ejected Gal instantly. He flew high and was intercepted by the medical robots around the arena. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 791. Gal's disbelieving face still remained in the rescue capsule. He had no idea how he lost and the fight was over. The battle is over, match time, 5 seconds. The winner is C534 no Siwa. The mechanical sound sounded directly. The white mecha controlled by Garen stood quietly on the spot, motionless, with white smoke floating slightly from the barrels of the two laser cannons beside it. Sitting in the mecha, he was calm. I glanced at the crescent moon next to me. There was no movement on it. It just flickered a little white light, but now it is completely quiet again. Reduce the control time of the battle as much as possible and achieve a quick victory. This is Garen's strategy. In the first game, Garl was instantly killed by Garlean. This shooting technique of instantly focusing two laser cannons relies entirely on Garen's powerful combat experience and control precision, mainly on Crescent Moon's control. After fine-tuning, this powerful attack effect was achieved. The battle at this moment directly attracted the attention of many people. Courtside. This kid. He actually has such a skill. Teacher Ham couldn't help smiling on his face. Double laser cannon concentrated fire, this is at least a secondary laser fire control technical trick. I didn't expect him to be silent. Show this hand. And shoot while the opponent is moving quickly. Faye Bailey's face also showed solemnity. It's very powerful. If I were to face this blow, it would be difficult for me to handle it. His overall strength is close to the second level, just relying on this hand. Sarah couldn't help but feel jealous. If this isn't a coincidence. Nono Shiva has always been taciturn and unknown in the class. No one expected him to have such a powerful skill. The more powerful he is, the happier we will be. Ham laughed and patted the two of them on the shoulders. Hurry and prepare for the next game. In the auditorium, Air looked at the Garan mecha that instantly killed his opponent on the field with envy. This guy is so powerful? Why didn't you know this before? Mia was in a rare mood. Although his face was still a little haggard, he was still really happy for his friend's victory. This is the first time that a new student has shown his actual strength. There is still progress within 1 year. Maybe he can really get a tuition exemption. Nono was very good in the entrance test, and it is normal for him to make such progress now. She is also very excited about the tuition fee exemption. After all, it will save her a lot of money. Now her family has almost cut off the supply of her tuition fees. Her father has gone out to avoid debts, and her mother is in tears all day long. She can't even make ends meet. She still relies on her to go out to work every day to earn money, so that she can barely maintain the family expenses. Hearing this, Air looked ashamed. I wrongly blamed him. I will apologize to him in a while. With 2 wins out of 3 games, Class C6 forfeited and entered the loser group. The second game was against Class C8. Similar to the first game, Faye Bailey easily defeated his opponent. It seemed that he was stimulated by galleons. As soon as the fight started, he rushed forward and slashed wildly. The speed of the sword was unusually fast and accurate. Then he chopped the opponent's chief into a stick and won the victory. Galen still focused fire with 2 barrels. This time, he failed to hit the target because the distance was too far, and he was almost hit by the opponent. However, he still hit the target with the second close-range shot. The result was the same as the first battle. The opponent didn't use any of his frustrated moves, and showed nothing except running, so he was instantly thrown out of the cockpit. The opponent in the end was a pretty little girl who threw herself into the arms of the female teacher and burst into tears. When Garen walked out of the mecha tunnel, he still had no expression. The laser cannon fire control was completely controllable by Yuya, but the focus fire technique was his own fine-tuning effect. If he wasn't afraid that his performance would appear abnormal, he would have killed his opponent with the first shot. Game 3, Game 4, Game 5. Game after game, Garen barely spent much effort. He also figured out the usage rules of Crescent Moon. As long as it is used for no more than 15 minutes at a time, there will be no problems. Once it approaches the limit of 15 minutes, it will generate more and more heat and dissipate high temperatures. This thing seems to be the core component of some advanced instrument. As the games progressed, Garen gradually became known to rival classes at the same level. Against multiple opponents in a row, it never goes beyond the third shot. He often takes care of his opponents with just the first or second shot, and even C5's chief Faye Bailey was put down by his performance. After defeating more than 10 classes in a row, the C5 class has been firmly ranked at 8th. If Sarah hadn't lost a few games, they would have had a complete victory rate. Garen, who had defeated many opponents in a row, finally encountered an opponent who could not win with one blow as the afternoon approached. C534 Nonoshiva vs C1153 Cancerdin. A mechanical sound suddenly sounded. The moment the sound rang out, both Galen and Faye Bailey felt their hearts tremble at the same time. No. Cancerdin is the chief of Class 11. How could he be assigned to the third position as chief? Teacher Ham shouted loudly and stood up from his seat suddenly. Faye Bailey clenched his fists at the side and lowered his head slightly. Isn't your chief Nono Siwa hiding in third place? A sarcastic voice came from the side. He was a young man with thin cheeks. He crossed his hands and looked at Teacher Ham coldly. Hearing this, Faye Bailey lowered his head. Garen sat quietly with his back against the wall, closing his eyes and resting. Besides, chief versus chief is just the default rule of the academy, not mandatory. It's my business to arrange it how I want to, the thin-faced teacher said calmly. Pilbo, Ham stared at the other party angrily. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Hee. Pierbo, the face-slimming instructor, laughed softly. I'm warning you. Don't mess around, Harm shouted loudly. Warn me? Phew, Pierbo sneered, you're still so naive, Ham. Nono's overall rating is close to level 2, so he won't necessarily lose against the chief, Faye Bailey suddenly interjected. The chiefs are all at least a first-level high-level player. Don't look at Faye Bailey's victory every time, which is not so clean and neat. Compared with Galen, there is a big gap, but that is the reason why his opponent is also more powerful. Galen was facing the second or third place. But this time against the chief, it would be really troublesome. Harm hesitated. It's okay, I can handle it. Garen opened his eyes and replied calmly. He has always faced rubbish opponents, and he wants to have a real fight to test his true strength. Otherwise, there is no point in being a waste that can kill in one hit. It is just a matter of firing a few more shots. Be careful. That guy Pierbo is ruthless. Ham looked at Garen worriedly. It's fine. The mechanical sound announcement started again. Garen stood up. This time he was playing as the chief. As soon as the match was broadcast, it immediately attracted the attention of the audience in this area. A chief versus 3 seats, I have to say that Garen's previous performance was still extremely eye-catching. This matchup also attracted a lot of attention. Gradually, as more and more classes are eliminated, the viewers of these classes focus more on the opponents who defeat their own class, hoping that a new opponent will appear and kill them. C534 Nonoshiva vs C1153 Cancerdin. Game start. Garen sat in the cockpit and stared quietly at the black mecha opposite. It also had dual guns, the same weapon system as his previous one. Before the initial sound could finish, the other party rushed out in a coaxing manner. Instead of approaching, he moved directly to the right at high speed. It was a very strange movement, with pauses and small jumps back from time to time, giving people an elegant and irregular feeling. Woo! Garen's twin laser cannons focused their fire again and shot out suddenly, hitting the fire control system on the head of the black mecha. Then, the first shot missed. The two laser beams were slightly tilted by the black mecha and passed by without any harm. Garen's heart trembled. He clearly felt that this shot was a sure shot, and the hit rate was definitely high. He didn't expect that it would miss directly. The opponent continued to move erratically, and suddenly fired two shots of Chi-Chi, but Garen also dodged and dodged them. Compared to his movement skills, Garen could easily see through the opponent's shooting skills. Try again? Is it a coincidence? Garen suppressed doubts in his heart. Click, the double barrels moved slightly, and a white light slowly lit up in the muzzle. Woo! Two beams of white light suddenly drew two white tracks, shooting straight towards the center of the opponent's body like lightning. Then he missed again. The laser beams merged into one, penetrated from the waist and armpits of the black mecha, hit the protective barrier behind, stirred up ripples, and then disappeared. It's not a coincidence. Garen was shocked. Watch each other's steps carefully. This pace. This step, the Jair's dance step, is the second level evasive step of the Jair's family. In the auditorium, where the family members from outside came to watch the game, a middle-aged woman with a serious face looked at the field below and spoke calmly. Vocal channel. I didn't expect that little Gears of the Gears family would actually have such strength. As expected of the chief, every chief has the strength of a first-level high-level player, and at last one or two subjects have broken through to the second level. A white-haired old man on the other side nodded and said, "This time I came to the black market, it was really good." That's right, I didn't expect to see this dance step in such a low-level competition. He showed a look of reminiscence. I think back then, Jair's Veneno used this step to kill 12 masters in the East Extreme region. This second-level dance step is just a basic simplification. That's true. At this age, it's pretty good for little Jair's to have such strength. The woman nodded. But his opponent is also a good candidate. I watched the replay of the game just now. The laser cannon fire control is very good, and the timing is not comparable to ordinary people. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 792. Garen stared at the mecha opposite him quietly. Through the panoramic mirror, he could see the irregular fluctuations of the opponent's constant movement. This kind of fluctuation has no rules at all, and even the opponent can't quite grasp the rules of this movement. This feels very strange. Is this the mid to high level mecha skill in this world? It really has its own uniqueness. He carefully observed the opponent's movements. As for the laser beam attacks that came from time to time, they were completely useless. He only needed to turn them slightly. Easily dodged. Again. Garen tried to raise his hand. Woohoo! The two laser cannons shot towards each other separately, one after the other, pulling out two white lines. This time, instead of concentrating his fire, he fired the two shells separately. Immediately, the black mecha on the opposite side started to scramble. It relied on that weird pace to avoid the first bombardment. Then it failed to completely dodge the second bombardment. It was hit hard on the waist and popped out with a hiss. Green smoke. Garen checked the time. Including the time he spent observing, only 8 minutes had passed, which was still early before Yuya's limit. Woohoo! Continue to shoot two laser cannons, locking the two sides of the black mecha separately. This time, Galleon's judgment was slightly more accurate. The first shot hit the opponent's right leg, and the second shot once again grazed the waist of the black mecha. He faintly heard the man's curse coming from the other side. Is this the chief's strength? Garen stimulated the other party unceremoniously, and his voice was heard through the mecha's external loudspeaker. Or are you, the chief, the weakest among them? Don't be proud, an angry voice came from inside the black mecha. Woo! This time the two laser cannons merged into one and shot straight towards each other. But the black mecha twisted strangely, and the strange dance step suddenly appeared again, and it even avoided the laser cannon beam as thick as an arm. At the same time, he raised his hand and fired 2 shots back. With this weird dance, the shot fired back almost hit Garen's evasion. Garen was also slightly shocked. The opponent's movement trajectory is unpredictable. Will it cause trouble in evasion? This was the first time he encountered such a situation since he learned the secret weapon. In fact, his martial arts has always been without taboos. He doesn't pay much attention to dodge and avoidance, but more to crush the enemy with overwhelming force and overwhelming force. This time there was such a situation where he could not avoid it, which undoubtedly made him feel more novel. This path is not very similar to his previous fighting style. It can be vaguely seen from the opponent's dance steps that the fighting technique used by the opponent definitely has more than this effect. It seems to be just a basic version of a more advanced fighting technique. Interesting. But it's better to end it early. No matter how strong this kind of dodge is, it must be used by someone with sufficient strength. Garen never wasted time and directly fired 2 separate shots. The black mecha was hit on the arm and thigh again. After firing separately and firing like this again and again, Garen basically stood still, just firing out again and again, twisting slightly to avoid the opponent's shots. Because as the black mecha suffered more and more injuries, its flexibility of movement also declined rapidly. His weird dance steps seemed to require high flexibility. Once this point dropped, it immediately caused a large amount of evasion. The effect disappears. It's over. In the stands, the white-haired old man whispered. Although the Jair's dance is powerful, Little Jair's has not yet fully exerted its power. This kind of dance based on the disordered fluctuations of consciousness has the ability to automatically choose the best route to avoid dangerous threats. It can truly display its power. The stage of power should be after reaching an advanced level. But it's pretty good to be able to do this at this age. The serious woman next to him nodded. Suddenly, there was a huge exclamation from the other side of the stadium. It was not the exclamation of 1 or 2 people, but hundreds, or even thousands of people. Many people stood up suddenly in the stands, their mouths slightly opened, as if they were very surprised to see it. Things. That's, the white-haired old man turned his gaze and looked at the B-grade display screen on the other side. The battle situation above showed the scene of a certain special competition area. Spear of Victory. A rare look of surprise appeared on the serious woman's face. The ultimate skill of the 3rd level Violent Heart of Consciousness. That mecha can actually release it twice in an instant. Incredible genius. The Spear of Victory condenses a large amount of violent high-voltage current around it, which can have strong interference with Gaussian electromagnetic weapons and metal weapons. It can also play a powerful role in distorting the opponent's electric field and consciousness in close combat. It is an extremely powerful skill among melee mechas, the old man said in a low voice. A sophomore student in grade B can actually reach the 3rd level of consciousness, and has completely trained his violent heart to the top. He is definitely the top. Genius. Black Pen Academy truly deserves its reputation. In the B-grade battlefield area, 2 mechas, one black and one white, were moving at high speed and facing each other. The black mecha was holding 2 terrifying spears that were extremely sharp and shining with a large amount of blue electricity in both hands. Countless electric currents flowed on the spears, so much so that the material color of the spears itself was completely covered up, as if both spears were completely condensed by electric current. Die. Goldo, a cold man's voice came from inside the black mecha. The Spear of Victory can only mean that your consciousness is strong enough. If you want me to die, it depends on whether you have the strength. The same cold female voice sounded from the white mecha on the opposite side. Clang. The 2 mechas suddenly collided at high speed, one holding a spear and the other holding a sword. The white giant sword slashed hard on the electric spear, making a harsh metal creaking sound from the friction. In an instant, a large amount of electric current spread fiercely downward along the body of the giant sword. Garen shot 2 more shots to break the black mecha's arms. At this time, he also heard the exclamation from outside. Suddenly, he knew that something was happening outside, causing all the audience's attention to be drawn to the other side. But the black mecha was still resisting and had no intention of giving in. Both arms were broken, and he was actually running towards the side at high speed. Really tenacious, the 2 cannon muzzles next to Garen once again lit up with white light. Cha! Suddenly the white light went out directly. Garen seemed to hear a small noise ringing around him. Kindness. He suddenly looked at the little crescent moon on the stage, and saw that the crescent moon was flashing white light intermittently, which seemed extremely unstable. He tried to move the mecha. Oops. You can't move. What's going on? It's only the 10th minute, Garen's heart was shaken, and he knew it was bad. The entire mecha was actually completely unable to move. Looking across the mirror, he saw a black mecha running towards him crazily. The mecha used the remaining half of its right arm to hold an alloy dagger, and the sharp tip of the dagger stabbed towards the middle of his cockpit. Boom! 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 The black mecha is getting closer and closer, and the footsteps are getting heavier and heavier. Garen was still trying hard to control the mecha to move with his consciousness. But Yuya was not only unable to help him control the mecha at this time, it even created huge resistance and interference, making it impossible for him to practice the basic movements of the mecha. Damn it, his forehead was sweating slightly, and the black mecha in front of him was getting closer and closer. 20 meters. 10 meters. 5 meters. 3 meters. 2 meters. Move it, Garen suddenly urged his consciousness. Coax. A loud, dull sound. When everyone was dumbfounded, when Teacher Ham and Teacher Pierbo opposite were dumbfounded, even Fabrier couldn't help showing a hint of strangeness. On the field, the black mecha collapsed in front of the white mecha. He tripped over a small crater made by his own shooting. The entire mecha fell to the ground, and many small arcs of electricity crackled on the surface of his body. The black dagger was no longer good and fell to the side, and the entire mecha could no longer stand up. Climbing in front of the white mecha. Winner, no Siwa, the sweet mechanical voice sounded again. Garen was sitting in the cockpit, watching the white crescent moon flashing with uncertain white light. He still couldn't control the mecha. Obviously, there was something wrong with the crescent moon's control time again. Until the black mecha fell down and was scrapped, and the victory was determined, he still waited for more than a minute before he felt the white crescent moon recover again. Sitting in his seat, his heart kept screaming secretly. In the situation just now, if the opponent really stabbed the cockpit, the result might be that he was seriously injured again and lost the game. With the quality of his current body, it is impossible to avoid this blow as quickly as possible. The final result may be that the game is lost and the person is severely injured and cannot continue to fight. When the time comes, let alone the top 3, don't even think about getting into the top 10. When the two of them left the arena, Pierbo, the instructor on the opposite side, left angrily, while the pilot of the black mecha stared at Garen with a complicated expression. "Why don't you give me one last moment?" he asked coldly. Garen looked at him, didn't answer, and left directly to go back to his class's partition. The driver was just a black-haired boy with an unruly face. In the end, he just stared at Garen's back without saying a word. Back in the rest area, Teacher Ham came up and patted Garen on the shoulder, with a smile on his face. "Well done. I didn't expect you to make such great progress." "It's all thanks to you, teacher," Garen replied with a smile. "But my heart was still sweating from the thrill just now." I looked at Fay Bailey next to me. He didn't have any expression. He just sat quietly in his seat and didn't speak. I guess my position as chief was taken away, and I felt a little uncomfortable after all. Next came break time, and Garen excused himself to go to the bathroom and carefully examine the crescent moon on his hand. The crack in the middle of the crescent moon is getting bigger and bigger, and it seems to be about half larger than before. Perhaps this is the ultimate reason why crescent moon failed just now. It seems that we can only reduce the fighting time as much as possible. Garen made up his mind. The limit time of the crescent moon test is 15 minutes, but there will obviously be occasional emergencies in the middle. In order to reduce accidents like just now, it is best the solution is to shorten the combat time as much as possible. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 793. In the next battle, Garen and Faye Bailey advanced all the way and killed their opponents instantly. As the battle gradually entered the middle, most of the classes were eliminated, and soon only 10 classes were left, entering the winner group. The loser group also determines the winners except for the 5 classes, and has the right to choose the opponents of the winner group. Garen's C5 class barely made it to the bottom of the winners bracket, ranking 9th in the winners bracket when Sarah lost 4 games in a row. Almost the entire ranking is supported by Faber and Galen. I let you down. Sarah was in a bad mood. Teacher Ham didn't say anything, just patted her on the shoulder. It's okay. Just adjust your condition and give your best in tomorrow's victory or defeat match. We've already come this far, and it's already better than our previous class ranking. Garen comforted. It goes without saying, I understand. Sarah lowered her head and looked very unhappy. Faye Bailey stood aside in silence. The successive smooth victories just now allowed him to regain some confidence again. The sky was gradually getting darker. After a day of competition, both the players and the spectators were very tired. The schedule was announced to continue on the next day, and the entire stadium gradually withdrew. Garen turned down the celebration banquet with Teacher Ham and others, and walked out of the arena on his own, walking towards Al and Mia, who were waiting at the edge of the crowd. Congratulations. Same joy. Garen smiled and looked at Mia. No. I was a little impulsive when I spoke before. Aira apologized in a low voice with a blushing face. It doesn't matter. Garen waved his hand. Let's go and eat first. Mia said with a smile. Let's go eat where I work. It's just for business, and the food there is pretty good. Okay. It doesn't matter where to eat. Galleons. Walking with the two of them, we also learned about various interesting things that happened on the field today. He missed many other competitions because he was concentrating on preparing for the competition, but Elle and Mia did not miss them, and used the monitor to select and watch the schedule at any time. I learned from the two of them that in the grade qualifying competition of Blackboard Academy this time, the C graders were mainly Barry and Melsith, who were invincible all the way, and then Chaos only lost 1 game, and it was because of one-time accident. These 3 people are recognized as the strongest 3 in grade C. Especially the first 2, they can be regarded as geniuses among geniuses. They have at least second-level comprehensive strength at a young age. At only 17 or 18 years old, he is equivalent to those veteran pilots who have practiced training for most of their lives. This is a terrifying gap in qualifications. Compared with other C-grade students, the average ordinary student, that is, AIRS level, has only reached the first level in a few subjects, and has not even touched most other subjects, let alone participated in actual combat. Have a fighting match. Only those who have reached level 1 in these necessary comprehensive subjects will have the minimum qualifications to participate in the competition, because these subjects are the most basic part of operating mechas in actual combat. The current level of grade C in the entire arena is that Barry, Melsith, and others are on the first level, and they have reached the overall level of the second level. Cause and the unpopular player who defeated him are on the second level. they have basically reached a comprehensive evaluation close to the second level. In other words, at least one or several subjects have a second level. The difference with Barry and others is that not all subjects have reached level 2. Garen thought that he was at this level, as well as Faye Bailey and the black mecha pilot he had defeated earlier. Then there is the third level, such as Sarah. This level is able to control mechas smoothly in combat, but it only has mediocre basic skills. There is nothing outstanding. It just depends on who is more proficient and who has better brain luck. The difference is very small. For example, Galleon's laser cannon aggregation skill is a second level skill. This skill can be used to kill ordinary first level players in one shot, even for opponents whose dodge level is not high enough. But against a guy with comprehensive second level strength, it's impossible to have a decisive blow with one blow. So next time your opponent may not be easily dealt with using the laser cannon aggregation technique. The three of them were sitting in the coffee and pastry shop, and Mia said sternly to Garen. Garen nodded. He naturally understood this, but his problem was not this, but his main consciousness. If his consciousness was enough, he could develop his own mecha combat skills. But the problem now is that the level of consciousness is too low. His real consciousness is actually not even level 1. He couldn't even control the mechas smoothly. In other words, his body's qualifications were about the same as those of ordinary students like Elmia, maybe even not as good as them. Only by relying on Yuya can he freely join this talent-studded qualifying competition. You must know that Black Pen Academy is a huge force that controls several large provinces. There are thousands or even tens of thousands of students entering the academy every year. The ranking match is a battle between the elites selected from among these people. But now that we have reached this ranking, our class has made progress. As long as we maintain stability, we will be successful. Mia seemed very optimistic. Even if she ranked 9th, she could still get 10% of the tuition fee, and she would also be able to pay for it. You can enjoy some special facilities and locations that are only open to the top 10. This is a benefit that extends to the entire class. With benefits like these, it is possible to make some extra money. This put her in a visibly good mood. It's hard to stay stable. The losers in the back are all very strong elites aside from the side. He is an honest person, because he said harsh words to Garen before, and he has been apologizing all the way, and now he is back to his usual self. I heard before that there were cases where the loser group all chose a ranked class to challenge, and in the end the round battle forced that class to be defeated and replaced. This must be paid attention to. Mia nodded. Galen had naturally investigated this information, and upon hearing this, he just nodded indifferently. With his combat experience and combat awareness, the laser cannon is not the only move. As long as he pays attention to the timing of crescent moon, everything else will be easy to deal with, and he will not almost get an own goal like just now. Don't worry, I will try my best. At this moment, a group of students came outside the coffee shop. They were all wearing C-grade school uniforms. The leader had a bad look on his face. As soon as he entered, he started looking around, as if he was looking for someone. "Where is An Yuxuan?" the boy in the lead, who was 18 or 19 years old, asked loudly. The cafe suddenly became quiet, and several waiters responsible for delivering food and drinks stopped at a loss. "I'm An Yuxuan." A young boy with a cold face stood up in the corner. He calmly stared at the people who came in. The leading boy immediately walked over and led a group of people to surround the table. "Let's go out and talk." The voice suddenly became quieter. No one else could hear the sound very much. Only Garen seemed to have slightly improved his 5 senses because he had reached the second level of the Cold Hell Peacock skill. He could faintly hear a few intermittent words. "Next time you compete, you have to admit defeat or else." Probably he still heard the meaning clearly. And Yuxuan is one of the few students who won the winner group without any background or power at all. AI leaned forward and explained softly, Those people must want him to lose on purpose next time. No, you also be careful of the other party using this trick. Garen frowned. Watching the group of people walking out surrounded by an Yukshuan, he faintly heard that the other party was using an Yukshuan's family's job benefits as a temptation and threat. Most of the students in this Black Disc Academy are either rich or noble, and all of them have extraordinary social status and backgrounds. Their influence network is spread throughout the Black Disc domain. It can be said that as long as they go back and talk to their families, they can threaten the livelihood of ordinary people's families. This is caused by the huge social gap. The opponent is obviously using the impact this gap can bring as reward for an Yukshuan deliberately losing the next game. This is an exchange and a threat. He raised his head and saw Mia and Aier looking at him worriedly. Suddenly he smiled slightly, showing a trace of calmness. It's okay, don't worry, I will take care of it. All three of them have families that are at the bottom of the academy. Even Mia was not from a wealthy family. This is the key reason why the three of them are able to come together. At this moment, when I saw an Yukshuan being embraced by a group of powerful disciples, I suddenly felt a sense of sadness in my heart. But there was nothing they could do. According to the normal path, if a student like an Yukshuan is selected into the academy with excellent results, his family will definitely bear a heavy burden for his tuition. Even after he graduates, he will definitely have to find a high-paying job, including joining the Blackboard Academy. It is probably not realistic to become an elite, but as a graduate, it is very possible to enter the mecha divisions of the government or the army. If you offend these powerful children now, it will be really difficult to get along in the future. Doesn't the academy care about it? Someone whispered beside him. It's not that he doesn't care, but he deliberately condones it. The upper management of the college believes that family background is also a kind of strength. If one's talent and IQ can break through the shackles, it means that he is an absolute true genius. At that time, he is the talent that the college really values. Then the higher UPS are not afraid of going too far. What if the students who have been trained for so long are accidentally destroyed by a secret hand? There are supervisors above who control a certain degree. As for what degree, I don't know. I just heard about it from my cousin among the elite students. The three gallons sat here and heard the discussion, and Elle and Mia felt very uncomfortable. Some cakes and breads were served, as well as a special fruit platter, but the three of them just ate some casually and had no appetite. These were all artificial foods, not natural. Now they heard these words and felt even more unhappy. Several calls came in from the Galleon terminal, all from the class. The teacher, Ham, called and asked him where he was eating and if he wanted to go there to relax and sing. He declined. His younger brother called and said that he saw him on TV. Although his name only flashed by in the game results, it was enough to make him happy and excited. Then the younger sister who had never seen anyone called him for the first time and chased him to ask about the specifics of the competition, as if she was going to show off to her friends. There were constant calls during the meal, and I became unusually busy. It took a long time before the calls gradually stopped. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 794. South of Hippan City. In a pastry shop somewhere. Alan, your brother is from Black Pen Academy, and you didn't even tell us. In the cute pink-themed shop, a pink-haired girl wearing a white apron shouted loudly, tugging on Alan's hair. Store manager, I told Zayulai and the others a long time ago, don't blame me. Alan is wearing the same white apron, his long hair is tied up, his skin is fair and delicate, and his figure is similar to that of a girl, giving him a strange androgynous look. He also wears a pair of black-rimmed glasses. Looking from a distance, he doesn't look out of place among a group of young girls. He also has a sense of elegance. Is it true? The pink-haired girl immediately turned to look at the other clerks in the store, and the other girls and boys immediately turned around with guilty consciences. They are all younger than the store manager, and are usually regarded as younger brothers and sisters by the store manager girl. The members of this store have a very pure relationship with each other, and they are all simple-minded people. This is why the store manager deliberately does this when selecting people. Selected. That's it, store manager. Alan told us last time when he called, and we all heard it. A handsome boy wearing glasses whispered. It's just that Alan's brother rarely contacted him, so we gradually forgot about it. Of course they didn't forget it. Except for the simple Alan who couldn't see it. In fact they all felt it from Alan's story. Alan's brother Nono actually looked down on this younger brother, even though Alan clumsily defended his brother. Although he said nice things, Nono Siva's arrogant, inhumane, and strong image slowly emerged in everyone's mind. Naturally, I rarely talk about this topic with Alan. I originally thought that with so many people in Black Pen Academy, brother Alan would be just an ordinary student there, but I didn't expect that guy is really proud of himself. The two girls with blonde curly ponytails whispered in a low voice. But Alan is so tired every day, and he still insists on saving money for his brother to work, and to continue taking classes in the evening. His brother doesn't even ask a question, which is really chilling, another girl said in a low voice. Forget it, stop talking, let Alan hear it and start yelling again. The two girls looked at Alan with a pure face and sighed involuntarily. Forget it, the Black Pen Academy is too far away from us, let's be realistic. The pink-haired girl clapped her hands loudly. Everyone, please pay attention. My brother and his friends will come over to help with work in a while. It's a holiday during the internship. They are all middle school students, about the same age as you, so we all need to get along well. Wow! Immediately all the clerks gathered around. The store manager's younger brother? Is he as handsome as me? Maybe he is a very cute little boy. The store managers are so pretty. I don't know what kind of person he is. If he has a bad temper, he will be in trouble. Davy, it will be up to you then. Conquer him with your charm. Seeing the shop assistants gathered around curiously, the pink-haired girl crossed her hips in satisfaction. Don't worry, my brother and his friends are good people. Especially my brother, he is an incredibly gentle guy. Just don't bully him. Really? Do you have any photos to look at? Here the pink-haired girl took out a color photo, which was immediately snatched away. Look for a fight, Jasmine. A girl with a silver ponytail smiled coquettishly and ran away with the photo, but was immediately surrounded by people. Let me see. She took off the photo, shook it, and looked at it. The photo showed a short boy with a shy smile on his face. He was not handsome, but somewhat delicate. His messy black hair was being rubbed vigorously by the store manager behind him. In the lower right corner of the photo, written in black pen, loose cover. This is Centaur Star language, which means my beloved family. Oh, manager, it's so disgusting. Another boy grabbed the photo and read it out loud. Oh, you want to die, don't you? The pink-haired girl suddenly became embarrassed. Alan stood on the edge and smiled, watching that there was no customer in the store, but everyone was making a fuss. This feeling made people feel warm and comfortable. He also saw the boy in the photo. He looked very gentle and must be an easy person to get along with. Black Disc Academy. In the dormitory area of Grade C. Just as Garin inserted his ID card into the door lock and opened the dormitory door with a click, he suddenly felt a slight movement in his heart. As if something was slightly activated, an inexplicable feeling surged out of his heart, but he could not grasp the source. He stood quietly at the door for a while, holding the door handle of the house and motionless. This feeling is so familiar, he murmured softly. Click. Behind me, I heard the sound of students opening the door from the opposite side. Garin suddenly woke up and turned his head slightly to look behind him. A boy who lived across the street was making a phone call in a low voice to the watch terminal. He walked into the room while talking. He also pushed the door in and closed it behind his back, blocking out the footsteps, chatter, and laughter of the passing students, and the sound of the hovercar's engine outside. Did that start? He turned on the air conditioner, took off his coat and threw it on the chair. He lay down on the bed and quietly recalled it. When he chose this body, it was mainly because there seemed to be a trace of inexplicable fluctuations around it. Now it seems that his original choice is starting to come true. After thinking about it carefully, this feeling was very familiar, but not very clear. Garin himself was not sure what it was about. I thought about it carefully in bed for more than 10 minutes but still found nothing. Sighing, he sat up directly and continued with today's routine exercise practice. Glancing at the attribute bar, today's attribute page began to change slightly. Nono Siwalin strength 0.7, agility 1.2, constitution 0.5, intelligence 1.4, potential 0%, soul limit 40. On average, all attributes have increased in strength by 0.1, which is not bad. Galen nodded with satisfaction. I just don't know how much the second level of peacock function can strengthen this body. If it can fully break through the average of 1 point, the attributes are the best. When the time comes, I can rely on my fighting experience and skills to be able to protect myself even when faced with SWAT personnel holding firearms. Powerful secret martial arts can bring various changes to the practitioner as they complete each level. Some are positive, some are negative, and some are insignificant and harmless. As for the Peacock Kung Fu, which is the second level of the basic stage and the second level of the secret martial arts of life, I don't know how much change it can bring to this body. Garin took a closer look at the secret martial arts and other skill columns. They also saw changes, and there were actually new consciousness skills. Consciousness basic intermediate level. Exercise method, Black Disc Control, free training method of Black Disc Academy, continuous training effect is weak, the progress rate is 12 years / each level. Finally, the training method has become a skill. It seems that my understanding of the training method in this world has gradually deepened, and then I have formed enough concepts in the innate abilities. Garin thought thoughtfully. Skills that can be formed can be enhanced by potential points, but it seems that there are no potential points in this world. Garin frowned slightly again. Ding dong. Suddenly the doorbell rang. Garin looked at the time. It was already past 10 o'clock in the evening. Who else would be looking for him? He had just separated from Elmia. If there were others, they would definitely use the watch terminal to make a call first. The doorbell only rang once and then there was no more movement. Garin stood up and walked over to open the door. There was a clicking sound, but there was nothing and no one outside the door, except for a letter lying on the ground. There is a line written on the surface of the white envelope, to Nono Siwalin. Garin picked up the envelope and glanced outside again. 2 passing students walked into the dormitory building chatting and laughing. Apart from that, there was no suspicious behavior. He closed the door again and sat back on the bed with the envelope. Does Nono Shiva have any special interpersonal relationships in this world? Or rather, Garin tore open the envelope, pulled out an unsigned piece of letter paper, and unfolded it gently. Nono, regarding tomorrow's second game, we hope you can take the initiative to admit defeat. Then there was the image of a blue daffodil. Garin looked through the back of the paper and saw that there were words on the back of the paper, and he looked back. Londo Lin, Deputy Section Chief of the Negotiation Section of the Commerce Department of Jushangyuji Investment Company. Amy Landa, Deputy Section Chief of the Inventory Management Section of the Operations Department of Jushangyuji Investment Company. Does this mean, Garin suddenly understood as he touched the paper. Nanosawa's parents are just ordinary employees. This position in any subject should be the price for me to give up and admit defeat this time. It's really a good balance, simple and effective. He knew that such a change in position would bring huge earth-shaking changes to the entire family. The position of a deputy section chief would at least double the income every year, and the income of both people would more than double. The economic environment of the entire family will also be greatly improved, which is also a bargaining chip offered by the other party that is difficult to refuse. In such a school, faced with classmates and peers who can change the fate of everyone in their family with just a few words, it is no wonder that the original Nonosiwa was so extreme and inferior and introverted. This is simply not the kind of pressure a teenager should be under. So, how should I deal with this matter? Garen took the letter and thought carefully. He is really thinking carefully. According to the progress of the game, tomorrow's second game of the finals is probably the second game of the losers group challenge. In other words, the opponent is the elite of the losers group. Now he is sending this exchange condition. I also want to seize the winner's group position in Class C5. This is somewhat inconsistent with Garen's previous calculations. Moreover, the price of this exchange is less. Garen has no objection to cracking down on match fixing. As long as the goal is achieved, the process and means are not important. It's just that the exchange conditions offered by the other party are a bit too little and not worthwhile. Toot toot toot. Suddenly the watch terminal rang, and a call came in at this time. Garen raised his wrist and looked at it. There was no caller ID number, only an image of a cluster of dark blue daffodils. He waited for a moment, quickly opened the tablet, clicked on it for a while, then connected a data cable to the watch terminal, and then pressed the connect button on the watch. Hello, we are Blue Narcissus. Have you received the letter to you? As soon as the call was connected, a hoarse female voice came in. Garen glanced at the screen of a software he had compiled on his tablet computer. The wavy curves on it were slightly undulating. Come back. I received the letter, but given my ability, the price is too low. The other party was obviously stunned for a moment. He didn't expect Garen to say this directly. Those who can enter the qualifying matches are undoubtedly characters with excellent strength and talent and arrogance. When it comes to asking them to deliberately admit defeat, they will definitely we didn't have a good face or tone, but this time Garen actually started bargaining with her calmly.